Aloha Jivas, welcome back. It's that time again for reading Bhagavad Gita as it is. I've got Swami A.C. Bhaktivedanta's version, translation, and we are on chapter 2, contents of the Gita summarized. We're going to be starting at text 29. So let's do it. Ascharyavat pashyati kaschidinam Ascharyavat vadati taitava chanyaha Ascharyavat chainam manyaha Shrinoti srutvapi anam vedana chaiva kaschit. Some look on the soul as amazing. Some describe him as amazing, and some hear of him as amazing, while others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. Purport. Since Gita-upanishad is largely based on the principles of the Upanishads, it's not surprising to also find this passage in the Katha Upanishad, which is Shravanayapi bahubiryo nalabhyaha Shrinvanto pi bahavo yahana vidyuhu Ascharyo vakta kushalo shalabdaha Ascharyo gyata kushalanushishtaha. The fact that the atomic soul is within the body of a gigantic animal, in the body of a gigantic banyan tree, and also in the microbic germs, millions and billions of which occupy only an inch of space, is certainly very amazing. So even like the tiniest microscopic creature, bacteria, for example, like a single-celled amoeba, has a soul. Men with a poor fund of knowledge and men who are not austere cannot understand the wonders of the individual atomic spark of spirit, even though it is explained by the greatest authority of knowledge, who imparted lessons even to Brahma, the first living being in the universe. Owing to a gross material conception of things, most men in this age cannot imagine how such a small particle can become both so great and so small. So men look at the soul proper as wonderful, either by constitution or by description. Illusioned by the material energy, people are so engrossed in subject matter for sense gratification that they have very little time to understand the question of self-understanding, even though it is a fact that without this self-understanding, all activities result in ultimate defeat in the struggle for existence. Perhaps one has no idea that one must think of the soul and also make a solution of the material miseries. Some people who are inclined to hear about the soul may be attending lectures in good association, but sometimes, owing to ignorance, they are misguided by acceptance of the supersoul and the atomic soul as one without distinction of magnitude. It is very difficult to find a man who perfectly understands the position of the soul, the supersoul, the atomic soul, their respective functions, relationships, and all other major and minor details. And it is still more difficult to find a man who has actually derived full benefit from knowledge of the soul, and who is able to describe the position of the soul in different aspects. But if, somehow or other, one is able to understand the subject matter of the soul, then one's life is successful. The easiest process for understanding the subject matter of self, however, is to accept the statements of the Bhagavad Gita spoken by the greatest authority, Lord Krishna, without being deviated by other theories. But it also requires a great deal of penance and sacrifice, either in this life or in the previous ones, before one is able to accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna can, however, be known as such by the causeless mercy of the pure devotee and by no other way. That last sentence is very much like the statement in the Bible where Jesus says, and I don't know it exactly, but basically says, only through me can you enter into the kingdom of heaven, or only through me can you know God, or something like that. Because Jesus is a pure devotee. And so, like the sentence says, Krishna, who is God, okay, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, can be known only by the causeless mercy of the Krishna can, however, be known as such by the causeless mercy of the pure devotee and by no other way. So it does take both the effort and action of a person striving to become Krishna conscious, striving to ask the questions, to know the self and the relationship of the self with the Supreme. But also the second vital aspect that's needed for liberation from the cycle of birth and death is the mercy coming down from the pure devotee or Krishna himself. Text 30. Dehi nityam avadyo yama Dehe sarvasya bharat tasmat sarvani bhutani natvam shochitam arhasi. O descendant of Bharat, he who dwells in the body is eternal and can never be slain. Therefore you need not grieve for any creature. Purport. The Lord now concludes the chapter of instruction on the immutable spirit soul. In describing the immortal soul in various ways, Lord Krishna establishes that the soul is immortal and the body is temporary. Therefore, Arjuna, as a Kshatriya, should not abandon his duty out of fear that his grandfather and teacher, Bhishma and Drona, will die in the battle. On the authority of Sri Krishna, one has to believe that there is a soul different from the material body, not that there is no such thing as soul, or that living symptoms develop at a certain stage of material maturity, resulting from the interaction of chemicals. Though the soul is immortal, violence is not encouraged, but at the time of war, it is not discouraged when there is actual need for it. That need must be justified in terms of the sanction of the Lord, and not capriciously. Text 31. Swadharmam api chavekshya navikam pittumarhasi dharmyadhi yodhak treyo nyat kshatriyasya navidyate. Considering your specific duty as a kshatriya, you should know that there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principles, and so there is no need for hesitation. Purport. Out of the 4 orders of social administration, the second order for the matter of good administration is called kshatriya. Kshat means hurt. One who gives protection from harm is called kshatriya. Trayate means to give protection. The kshatriyas are trained for killing in the forest. A kshatriya would go into the forest and challenge a tiger face to face and fight with the tiger with his sword. When the tiger was killed, it would be offered the royal order of cremation. This system is being followed even up to the present day by the kshatriya kings of Jaipur state. The kshatriyas are specially trained for challenging and killing because religious violence is sometimes a necessary factor. Therefore, kshatriyas are never meant for accepting directly the order of sannyas or renunciation. Nonviolence in politics may be a diplomacy, but it is never a factor or principle. In the religious law books, it is stated, Ahaveshu mito nyanyam jigham santo mahikshitaha yudha manaha param shaktya svargam yanti aparnam mukkaha yageshu pashavo brahman hanyante satatam dvijaya samskritaha kila mantrashchete pisvargam avapnuvan, which is translated as, quote, in the battlefield, a king or kshatriya, while fighting another king, envious of him, is eligible for achieving heavenly planets after death, as the Brahmins also attain the heavenly planets by sacrificing animals in the sacrificial fire, unquote. Therefore, killing on the battle on the religious principle and the killing of animals in the sacrificial fire are not at all considered to be acts of violence, because everyone is benefited by the religious principles involved. The animal sacrificed gets a human life immediately, without undergoing the gradual evolutionary process from one form to another, and the kshatriyas killed in the battlefield also attain the heavenly planets, as do the Brahmins who attain them by offering sacrifice. There are two kinds of swadharmas, specific duties. As long as one is not liberated, one has to perform the duties of that particular body in accordance with religious principles in order to achieve liberation. When one is liberated, one's swadharma, specific duty, becomes spiritual and is not in the material bodily concept. In the bodily conception of life, there are specific duties for the Brahmins and Kshatriyas respectively, and such duties are unavoidable. Swadharma is ordained by the Lord, and this will be clarified in the 4th chapter. On the bodily plane, Swadharma is called Varnashram Dharma, or man's stepping stone for spiritual understanding. Human civilization begins from the stage of Varnashram Dharma, or specific duties in terms of the specific modes of nature of the body obtained. Discharging one's specific duty in any field of action in accordance with Varnashram Dharma serves to elevate one to a higher status of life. This is referring to what we've talked about previously regarding one's natural inclinations from birth according to one's karma. The acting in accordance to what your gifts are, what your talents are, is your duty as a human. In this society, it's a struggle to do that because we are in a time is money framework where most of the population are treated like slaves to make profits for the corporate overlords, basically. And as such, in this society, it's difficult then for one to have the time freedom to do work according to his natural abilities, but rather is many times ends up in situations where they just have to do whatever to make the money to pay the rent and feed your children. But in a society that is based on religious and spiritual principles, then people would have opportunities to honor those skills and inclinations and do those works accordingly. So it's kind of very sad, the state that we're in. So if at all possible, one should try to create a lifestyle that incorporates as much as you can time to devote to those things that you feel that you have, as your innate gifts and talents, and devote time to building those things within yourself. That's honoring who you are, who you were born to be. Okay, so one other thing here, it talks about, fighting for religious principles. This is not like the, what is it? The Middle Ages, when, like countries were, were just pillaging, looting, and destroying whole villages in the name of Christianity, to spread Christianity. That is not what this is talking about. It's necessary to uphold religious principles against demonic and ignorant forces that are abusing power over the masses of innocent people. So those people who are inclined to stand up and fight against tyranny and authoritarianism, then those people, more power to you. So I'm going to end there. Thank you for listening again today, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Hare Krishna.